Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. Now, if you're feeling a bit frazzled by life currently and are looking for something to bring you back to a place of peace and calm, then I think today's conversation is for you. My guest, Vishwam Gurudas Hekut, through his words, and he's very good with words, as you're going to find out, will help bring us to this calm state. But in addition to his words, and more truly, it's his open-hearted energy that I think will benefit most from today. So Vishwam, I'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Shanta Liz. It's good to be here. Really good to be here with you.
Good. So I'm just going to do a bit more of an introduction, a bit more of a formal introduction, looking at my notes, and then we'll dive into questions. So Vishwam, he's originally from Iowa in the US, and he's a yoga minister, yoga teacher, and teacher trainer, based now in the Shetland Isles. He's also a writer, a heart meditation facilitator, and well-being coach. He runs his own organization, Flowing with Life, along with other people, and they offer classes, courses, retreats, one-to-one coaching, and more. Vishwam studied politics at university and then followed that with a PhD in sociology. He also has a very strong interest in ecology, and he brings all of that knowledge, as well as his experience and wisdom, into his work, which is grounded in the belief that all life is sacred and should be honored and respected. So that says a little bit about you, Vishwam, but we are going to discover a lot more, hopefully, in this next hour or so. And I like to start sort of near the beginning so we get a sense of your journey. And one thing that struck me when I looked at your website is there's lots of images of the sea. And living
Mm.
on an island, a small island, you are surrounded by the sea and you're very close to the sea. But that wasn't the case when you grew up, because Iowa is a landlocked state. And you told me that the first time you saw the sea, I think you were about 20, something
Yeah.
around that age. So the sea is obviously something you're passionate about now, but growing up, you were very far away from what you've now discovered is a passion. And I wondered if that's sort of symbolic in a way of your younger life and childhood. Did you feel a little bit distant from, or in your heart, did you feel a bit distant from what felt good to you? Um, and I know you had some challenges, but can you tell us a bit about your childhood and whether I'm sort of on the right tracks with some of that?
Sure, sure. So you're right. I didn't see the sea until I was 20, at St. Andrew's Beach, which is a phenomenal place to see the sea. For anyone who's not been there, it's and who's old enough, it's the scenes from Chariots of Fire are filmed there. So it's very long, uh, beautiful beach. And I stood gazing for ages, just in awe, uh, that the water just, there's no end, it seems. And, the sea is a beautiful metaphor of the infinite. Um,
Mm.
so my heart teacher, Padma Devi, talks about the ocean of compassion, the ocean of love, um, and that how sometimes with our ideas of trying to like pin down knowledge, we might try to put the ocean in a teacup. This is what life is, or this is what the divine is. We try to make life small. And I grew up surrounded by people who were trying to put the ocean in a teacup and
Mm.
were wondering why I didn't want to drink from their teacup. And I somehow always knew there was so much more to life than what my culture told me. Um, I didn't understand how, with religion, for example, that the teaching that God is love and love our neighbors and love ourselves and all of that. And then there were all these rules and regulations and requirements about very rigid belief systems. Um, and I remember asking someone, well, what about all the people from all the different beautiful religions and traditions of the world and all the indigenous people and all the people who came before Jesus was born? No, no, they're all excluded. And I was like, well, that's not for me then, is it? Not interested.
Mm.
And likewise with our political and economic structures, like I didn't understand why should some people be valued more than others. That never made sense to me. Um, and why should people who claim positions of authority over others? In my heart, I seem to always know that real relationships are grounded in freedom and equality and in consent. But that's not the culture I was raised in, so I'm still unlearning all the habits
Mm.
of that, what we might call patriarchy.
Mm.
Yeah. And I did have a lot of challenges, and I've kind of been seeing more how those challenges are part of what I came to face, really. Um, Around 10 years ago, I was watching with my partner this TV show called The Voice. I don't know if you've seen the blind audition music TV
Yes.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we used to like watching that. And there was a year a fireman from Aberdeen won, um, Stevie McRory, and he sang this haunting tune. It was like, don't you want me? Don't you need me? Take my body, take my body. And when he won, I found myself feeling quite upset, and I went into the bathroom, and I locked the door, and I played his audition off YouTube like over and over again, and I was sobbing. And I
Mm.
was quite curious about that. I thought that's a strong reaction to a song. What's going on? What's going on, mind? And I suddenly saw or remembered before being born, and it must have kind of been after the veil of forgetfulness, as they call it, was applied, because I couldn't remember everything, but I just had this feeling that I'd been kind of thrown out in a way, and this song, awoke that memory in me of feeling excluded from the divine, from the infinite. Uh,
Mm.
and I remember being really upset and being like, and just sort of begging, like, please don't make me go back to Earth. It's so hard there. I don't want to go. It's too much. It's too much. Not that I was made to go, I don't think. I'm sure I agreed to it and wanted to come. But after that, the veil of forgetfulness, and I started to feel separate. I was like, oh, no, 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 never mind. No, no, no. So I was very ungrounded as a child because I didn't really want to be here. And then, there's a lot of domestic violence at home and school bullying growing up gay and questioning religion and authority and, all these things in rural Iowa in the 1980s. Um, yeah, yeah, it wasn't easy. Uh,
Mm.
but uh, I took solace in my mind, in
Mm.
books and stories. The library was a haven, um, and also in nature. Being in the trees, walking the hills. When we went to places that had hills, there weren't any that close to my house. Um, but yeah, yeah, that kind of I was a young mystic really,
Mm.
and searching for the magic of life.
Mm. Did you get into writing at that point, or did that come later?
I did. I wrote a story called The Weather Wizard, which my mom knew the TV weatherman. They went to school together, and she sent it off to him, and he wrote me this nice letter, encouraging me to keep writing. And
Oh, yeah.
so yeah, so I did write stories. I might have written some poems as well. I remember creating a kind of book as a teenager, um,
Mm.
and I loved literature. But I think I was raised in a culture that said the way you get through life is by being a professional and very rational, and
Mm.
that. And I had that kind of mind that was good at that kind of thing. So, it seemed like I should be a scientist or a lawyer or something. And I
But
thought I
you
was
went
gonna.
to
Uh,
politics. Your degree was politics,
Well, kind of, actually. It was,
right?
I went to a liberal arts university, so it's very different from the UK system. I was encouraged to take a wide variety of subjects, and I thought I was going to major in chemistry and environmental science. And then it turned out I was not a science genius at university level by any stretch in the way that I felt like I had been in school. So I switched to psychology with gender and women's studies, which was a lot about society and politics and how our systems are constructed. And
Okay.
then my approach to sociology after that was very political in terms of not governmental politics so much, a critique of the nature of the state, and also about social movements and how we can have more democratic society and
Mm.
more consensual lives, really.
Mm. And you're in Scotland by now, is that right? Did you study over here?
So I did my first degree in the States, and then I did my PhD at the University of Edinburgh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So not long after I first saw the sea and beheld the infinite, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, a couple of years later, I came back to Scotland on a work permit and met my partner, Paul, a week after moving to Edinburgh, and that was 28 years ago now. Uh,
Mm.
yeah, yeah. Um,
So I don't think you've got plans to go back to the US. Do you feel quite at home here?
uh, yeah, yeah. You know,
Mm.
um, I I left the US because I saw kind of how it was heading in a way,
Mhm.
um, and because the system there is so brutal. Where the propaganda I was told as a child is that it's the greatest country in the world and the best democracy and all this. But
Mm.
then I came to Scotland and saw this much stronger sense of community, more care for each other, much more diversity, and
Mm.
national healthcare system, good public transport, things
Mm.
that we're told are dreams in America that aren't possible.
Mm.
There's no safety net there. And I knew I didn't have my feet on the ground. I was not the sort of person who would be able to survive that kind of system. So you could
Mm.
say, anyway, I'm a refugee. If I felt like that, at the time, I feel like I would have been quite sunk, even though I've got a lot of privilege, a lot of skill. Um, America is a tough place. And the number of people who are shocked by the rise of, well, it's heading very clearly towards fascism in the US, uh,
Mm.
is perhaps because we've been taught that fascism is the opposite of democracy.
Mm.
But I'm sorry to say, it seems to me that what we've been calling democracy for a long time isn't all that different. It's putting a small number of people in control of the rest of us. And we've been led to believe that if we get to choose some of those small number of people, then that's good enough.
Mm.
And my PhD work was about the relationship between sexuality and political systems in a way. And if we think, we would love it if all sexual relationships were entirely consensual.
Mm.
And then we look, our political system's not consensual, our economic system's not consensual, our schooling is not very consensual. Very, very little about our society is actually consensual. And
Mm.
then we wonder why people have trouble negotiating well in more intimate aspects of life. So it
Yeah.
seems to me um, that to
Carry on. Sorry.
transform, yeah, sorry,
You go.
uh, that if we really want to transform and have healthier relationships in every way, then freedom, equality, consent, compassion are values that need to be within our institutions, not just things that we say are good and then don't actually do.
Yeah. And in the time that you've been here
Mm.
in the UK, things have changed. Do you see that they have deteriorated from that time when you came over to Scotland and it felt a bit like a breath of fresh air? Do you still feel like that?
Uh, there has been deterioration in some ways.
Mm.
Yeah, so the official systems are desperately trying to pull towards the US model.
Mm.
It's interesting. I've been reflecting the number of people who talk about, well, it's important to be quite centrist. We don't want to be too far left or too far right. Right in the
Mm,
middle is sensible.
mm,
And then I've been thinking, well, what we're calling, or not we, what the corporate media and politicians are calling centrist is a kind of capitalist fundamentalism. Economic growth at all costs, never
yeah.
mind people and planet and life and reality.
Mm,
The only thing that makes life possible is if somebody's getting richer, and
mm,
that's clearly insane.
mm,
Uh, it's not viable. Um, and the good thing that I'm noticing is that more and more people are open to questioning that now.
mm,
So 30 years ago, when I was a young activist, and people were talking in very small circles, we're talking about Palestine.
mm,
Very it was a minority to be questioning capitalism, to be even be questioning the state. Like, could we have other kinds of political structures? Could we have other ways of organizing our lives? Those were considered taboo to talk about.
mm,
And now it's becoming more obvious to more and more people that our systems are not viable, not healthy, not safe, not what they've been telling us they are. And so more people are looking, I think, for inspiration for change, which gives me a lot of hope.
mm. Oh, that's so good to hear you say that. And I imagine in Shetland, it's quite small communities and there is a lot of working together, supporting one another. It can get quite wild up there.
It
Do you feel
can.
community vibe quite strongly where you are?
There is a strong sense of community here. Yeah.
Mm,
Um, when we had a session, music session night, people brought their accordions and fiddles and drums and all that, and and different people singing. And there's a young man in the community who's, I forget what it is, but he has a genetic condition that makes his cognition quite different from most of us.
mm,
And he was singing, and he sang in a number, and danced, and everybody in the room just had this incredible warmth for him
mm, yeah.
in a way that I can't imagine an open mic session many other places where
Yeah.
that would be accepted in the slightest. So it was
Mm,
really moving and beautiful.
mm, mm,
And in fact, I work with a boy with autism, and there wasn't a space for him in the school, and the community got together and redecorated a building that wasn't being used to make
mm,
it into a space for him. The
mm,
sadly the central government here didn't pay for it. The local community organized it, from what I understand.
mm,
Um, but there is also the tendency towards individualism and hierarchy and all the things that come along with our supposedly modern, advanced,
mm,
what we call civilization, which
mm.
isn't. It's not civil uh, uh, on that level. Yeah.
So do you see that as our future then, hopefully, if things progress in a positive way, that we come back to being more connected in our communities and maybe, still very aware of our individual strengths and qualities, but bringing that together more to have that mix of different skills that we can then support one another with. Is that your
Yeah.
dream? Is that what you would like to see?
Mutual support, cooperation, and care, I think, is essential. And I don't know if it's going back exactly. We're kind of presented this narrative in a way that we're either make progress and go forward, and then there's the people presenting a very particular story about that means certain kinds of technology and certain kinds of institutions and certain kinds of control, or we go back. And that's either a romantic vision of the past, including those by the far right and the far left, or that we're losing something. If we go back in time, we're going to lose something.
Mm,
And it seems to me that each moment is completely fresh and completely rich with possibility. And if we consider what kind of future we want to have, the key is to practice the elements of that now.
mm,
Um, Practice being in the heart, practice listening to ourselves, to each other, to the earth. Uh, Notice what is needed in a community. Notice what's needed by our neighbors. Notice what's needed um, and doing what we can to help create systems cooperatively, consensually together that address those needs, and watch as that evolves organically. Um,
Mm.
there are those who want a blueprint. Well, how is this going to work, and how is that going to work? But the thing is, the way life works is in the moment. Um, we kind of learn as we go. Um,
Mm.
and for me, this is we could call it a revolution of love,
Mm.
a revolution of love. And I'll just show you the symbol for heart, for flowing with life here. Um, so it's the flower of life, which shows
Mm.
interconnected circles, all flowing from the heart.
Mm.
And my heart teacher, Padma Devi from Heart of Living Yoga, she talks about creating and connecting circles of coherence. So we all know that our minds are often not as coherent as we might like. But when we're in the heart, there's a field of coherence. And when we come together in a circle, relating as equals, all in the heart, there's a great steadiness and strength to that.
Mm.
And sometimes spiritual communities, can be a bit isolated or isolationist. And when we connect these circles, when we share with each other, when we learn from each other, when we cooperate for uh, bigger concerns, then we can create very different ways of being. Yeah. So one example of this, on a larger economic political scale, is when the economy collapsed in Argentina. I think it was around the year 2000. And a lot of the upper middle class people fled the country. So a lot of managers of factories and owners just left. The bank stopped issuing cash at cash points, and people were left um, not sure how to live. Really, there was no system available to them. And there's
Mm.
a movement arose, and they use the term horizontalidad, or horizontalism, how relating as equals.
Mm.
And created community councils. People got together, sat in circle, made decisions together, coordinated with other community circles. People in factories took over the factories and ran them as cooperatives. And there was one example. Naomi Klein made a movie about it, and there's some books about it, so people can look it up.
Mhm.
But like the tile factory gave free tiles to the schools and the hospitals because they knew those were essential structures for everybody. They were looking out for the well-being of all, uh,
Mm.
and then also selling to others so that they could pay themselves. They could buy bread from the cooperative. So there was a cooperative economy that developed.
Mm.
So we have all these signs
Mm.
from history that it's possible, and in our hearts we know it is. It's just unlearning the habit of trying to control, and also unlearning the habit of being obedient to those who say they are in control
Mm.
when clearly they're not really. Um,
Mm.
we might see the state as a kind of theater where some people pretend that they are in charge and that the rest of us have to just obey them. And that's not really true. It only seems like it is because enough of us are going along with it. But when we practice listening to the authority of the heart,
Mm.
when we're not afraid of punishment, and we're not susceptible to bribery, when we're in our integrity, um, then that kind of what we call power just dissolves. It has no meaning anymore. And any spiritual practice we can find that helps us to unknot all those habits of fear and desire in our system that allow us to be tugged around by those who are trying to manipulate, the more we can contribute in a meaningful way to this revolution of love.
Mm. That's lovely. And I think also it's about trusting ourselves, isn't it? That we do have that within us to cooperate, collaborate, work together. We'll come back to talk more about heart coherence, but I just wanted to ask how
yoga came into your life. How did you find yoga, and how long ago was that?
Sure. So the first year of my postgrad studies, I was preparing my first ever conference presentation, and I was really nervous about it, presenting this, um, probably controversial work. And while preparing it, suddenly my arms felt they were on fire, and I couldn't type without it hurting. Uh, and it took a long time. The NHS, bless it. Eventually, I got an appointment with a physiotherapist, and they said, "Oh, the nerves have been shortened from your neck to your arms from years of protective hunching, um, you know, rural Iowa protective, and
Mm.
then and some whiplash injuries I've had." And they said, "Well, maybe you should do something like Alexander technique or yoga or something to help your posture." Um, Notice me sitting up a little taller as I say that. So so I went along to a yoga class, and I didn't even know there were different kinds, but the studio nearest the university was an Ashtanga studio, and I could barely touch my knees, and my arms were shaking in down dog. Luckily I was desperate. I wouldn't have gone back. If I could have stayed out living in my head, I would have. But fortunately, my body didn't give me that option.
Mm.
Uh, and I kept going and kept going, and eventually noticed that not only was I getting stronger and more flexible and enjoying that, uh, that my writing became more poetic, and the way I saw connections between things that most people put in boxes of their are separation. There's this and there's that, and those are separate things. I started seeing a lot more connections and a lot more um, creativity, and I found myself writing in a way um, that I couldn't have before. And in fact, one of my colleagues, once said to me in a hushed tones, like, how do you write like that? Uh, and it's the yoga, it's the coherence that comes
Mm.
from the heart and from uh, helping our body mind system to be more in harmony with itself and with nature. And then
Mm.
inspiration just flows in. Um, just like a tree doesn't have to try hard to receive, from the sun and from the earth, from the rain, and to produce beautiful fruits. When it's in the right place and the right conditions, it just happens.
Mm.
And we are the same. So when you said we have to learn to trust ourselves, um, I think it's maybe not quite that. I think it's more through loving and supporting and nurturing ourselves. Uh, then it just happens.
Mm.
Yeah. But then when I finished my PhD, which looking back was 100,000 word long prayer in a way, asking, who am I and how do I be free? Uh, And I knew a lot about identity and a lot about freedom, but I didn't know it in my being. And I fell into a deep depression. Uh, and um, and after some time, realized I needed a different kind of yoga. I was ready for the spiritual stuff now, which I'd been avoiding because I was going to work it all out in my mind. Thank you very much. I was a very humble young man, as you can tell. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and we moved to Bournemouth, and I found a tradition of yoga that offered, yeah, the breathing and the chanting and much more holistic. Um,
Mm.
and then while I was training as a yoga teacher in that tradition, after realizing, oh wait, doing more of this is a really good idea. Um, I'd studied practices of freedom. That was one of the concepts from my work that I'd used. And then after a while going to these classes, I realized, I found one, and I
Mm.
saw how much it helped others who'd done the teacher training. So I did that, my first one. And in that year, uh, I went along to an interfaith chanting evening in the New Forest, and I met Padma there. And no one told me who she was. And just this nice lady who smiled and said, "Would you like a hug?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Um, and then and then I couldn't move afterwards. And she laughed and said, "Oh, you've been padmatized." And my mind is just going, "Is this normal for you?" You know, actually, I'm not sure it was really. My mind was just quiet
Mm.
and stunned. And it took me a long time to realize that I just dropped into meditation, really.
Mm.
Uh, it's like I'd come with a wrinkled cloth and she'd ironed the whole thing with a hug. You know, just my whole system was all smoothed out.
Yeah. We should say Padma is the founder of an organization, Heart of Living Yoga. And that's how I know you, Vishwam, having done my training with them about a year ago. Padma is an amazing, wonderful woman with such powerful energy, and I have interviewed her. So that's interview is available on the YouTube channel. But yes, so you had quite a profound first meeting with her.
I did. I did. Yeah. And then I spent the whole night staring at her, quite rudely, and she gave no indication that she even noticed, much less minded.
Yeah.
And that was another big clue. I was like, oh, here's someone who's completely unself-conscious.
Mm.
And I was like, that's what I want. That's
Yeah.
what I've been looking for. Whatever that is, I want it.
Mm.
Because of course, my mind was conditioned to think of life as objects
Mm.
that you can possess. Um, yeah. So and one of my favorite books is called The Dispossessed by Ursula Le Guin, which is all about this very question. Um, it's a beautiful novel. But anyway, so when she invited me to be her student, I, you know, I had to say yes. It
Mm.
was just obvious. And even though I was uh, really nervous, almost terrified, because I knew it was big,
Mm.
this opportunity to unlearn the habits of ego
Mm.
and to let go of self-importance and open up to real freedom,
Mm.
to step out of the gazing into teacups and dive into the ocean
Mm.
is not easy for us. It it seems like it can take a fair bit of practice to get more comfortable and more open to simply being ourselves, uh, to being at peace with life.
Mm.
I'm very grateful for all the practice
Mm.
and all the nudges and support that she and others in the Heart community are always providing.
Mm. So what was being her student like? You were training in her form of yoga, or was it a deeper sort of spiritual training that she was offering you? On
All of
both.
that, all of
All.
that and more. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So really practical support. She's a very practical woman.
Mm.
Her feet are clearly on the ground very firmly. So she helped me with a lot of life questions and challenges. And one of the big ones was uh, that that same night we met. I told her quite proudly that I had an interview coming up for uh, I think a senior lectureship at a local university, and she just looked me in the eye and said, "Do you want it?" And I was stunned. Of course, this is it's money and it's position, it's importance, it's stability, it's all these things I've been working towards. But then when I had the job interview, the presentation was fantastic. Like I'm very lucky to have been trained in public speaking from a young age, which is part of the U.S. educational system, uh,
Mm.
and was fairly good at it and able to present ideas in interesting ways. And so this presentation was magical. We were all together. We were all on fire. Whatever it was we were talking about, we were all in. And I thought, wow, if this was the job, I'd be interested. how to inspire and illuminate and excite people about different ways of seeing things and different perspectives and different approaches. But then, I considered Padma's question and realized, well, most of the job's administration and bureaucracy and meetings and assessing people, like giving people marks and saying you're better than, all this stuff that I could not bring myself to do. Um, and she helped a lot, with relationship challenges, with family stuff, with financial things. And I don't want to put any of that in the past tense because I'm still learning from her all the time.
Yeah. So
But
you're still supporting her and her work with the Heart of Living Yoga. And you
yeah,
teach them as well, is that right?
I do,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're all teach learners, of course, as she likes to tell us, remind us. So I did the first Hearts of Living Yoga teacher training with her in 2016, and then was one of the 4 students asked to train as a trainer at the same time.
Mm.
So we started offering the Heart Meditation Facilitator training, which is 6 months of radical self-care and daily heart meditation and uh, the practice of undoism, undoing the knots in our systems, allowing the things that we have kept us feeling constricted in life to get softer and softer until they melt away, and learning how to share the experience of being in the heart with others. So I'm part of the team offering those trainings. We have another one starting in October for anyone who might be interested. The
We'll put the
details.
links.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm part of the team helping to train new yoga teachers as well.
Mm.
There's also the Heart of Healing course, which I'm not on the team for, but I've taken as a student and found it incredibly transformative,
Mm.
learning many ways of helping to heal my own system, to increase my capacity to be of service to life.
Mm.
Uh,
Mm.
yeah.
So can we go back to coherence? That word has come up a few times already. What do you mean when you use the word coherence and when you're talking about it in relation to the heart?
Mhm.
What does it mean to you?
Okay. So the nature of the heart is wholeness and integrity and coherence. Everything is held. It's an excellent container. It
Mm.
holds everything. Um, and there's we might say, a tiny fragment of consciousness that can slip away from that, can float out of that and lodge itself, we might say, between our ears. And that little fragment of consciousness perceives life in a fragmented way. There's us versus them, better and worse. Um, should have done this. There's judgment. There's uh, blind spots. Um, all innocent. All of that is completely innocent, yeah. But not very comfortable. And that little glimmer of consciousness knows it's missing something, and it searches for it. And often it searches for it in what our culture tells us is the good stuff, whether that's money or relationship or position of authority or, you know, chocolate or uh,
Mhm.
whatever it is. And we can spend our lives searching in all those places. Will that bring me happiness? Will that bring me peace? Will that help me feel whole and worthy and belonging?
Mm.
And we know it never does. It can be great, but it doesn't fulfill. And rather than searching for what's missing, the heart approach is to let awareness come and settle out of the little tiny room in the attic and down into the garden of the heart. into that place that we were never really excluded from. There never was a fall in that sense.
Mm.
We just get distracted from it. That paradise is here within us.
Mm.
And when we're in the heart, we don't feel like anything's missing. We couldn't even have the thought that something is missing. We can't have the thought that we've been excluded or abandoned or any of those things, because that's only in the imagination.
Mm.
So that's the coherence of the heart.
And you're saying then that rather than looking for those things that need fixing, looking for those things that we need to bring back and reconnect, if we just sink into the heart, we're already in that place of wholeness. Nothing needs fixing or repairing or bringing back
Yeah.
together.
Yes and no. Yes and no. So when we're in the heart, we can see how to be helpful from a
Mm.
place of wholeness.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we might see that the soil needs care because nature's been disrupted with the use of chemicals, for example.
Mm.
We might see that our body is needing nutrients that we've not been giving it because we've been eating what we're being sold instead of what our body really wants. We can notice that the systems around us need care or replacing, or
Mm.
upgrading or healing. Yeah. So being in the heart is the opposite of naive.
Mm.
Uh, People think it's all like floaty pink
Mm.
clouds, Pollyanna, and
Mm.
uh, everything's great, love and light. And it's like love
Yeah.
and light in a grounded way. It's feeling the love.
Mm.
It's being held in that inner light so
Mm.
that we can help others to see that within themselves too. So we no longer see people as a problem to be solved. We no longer see life as a problem to be solved, but as an opportunity to contribute.
Mm. That makes so much sense, and I think is a really vital point you've made there, because yeah, there is this idea that sometimes people bypass the problems, deny the horrors, and by the love and light approach.
Yeah,
What you're saying is that being in the heart is about touching into reality and being authentic,
yeah,
but also seeing the full potential of what could be. And it's not about just sitting back and basking in that. It's about being out there and contributing and taking action. But again, from a place of seeing the wholeness of life and the connections. I haven't
yeah,
said as well as you, but I think,
yeah. And what form that action takes for each of us is going to be different.
yeah.
Like different cells in the human body have very different functions,
Mm.
and different organs play different parts. Um, but they're all equally essential to a healthy life. Um, and the same is true. We don't want to be inventing hierarchies about, you should be an activist or you should be uh, anything. Some people's contribution to the healing of our world will be growing flowers and writing poems,
Mm.
and others will be civil disobedience or public speaking or organizing food banks or shelters or soil remediation or we all have our calling in life, and
Mm.
the way we can hear it is when we're quiet inside.
Mm.
and not caught up in the, well, of course I would want the job where I get paid a bunch and people think I'm important and I have an identity. I'm a professor, by the way. It's unlearning all that and finding out, oh, wait, what is life asking? And how can we allow life to flow through us to meet the needs of life? It takes away that sense of separation when we're in the heart. It dissolves because it was never real.
And I guess that's the coherence when we're all doing our own thing, what makes our own individual heart sing, but we're doing it with the collective knowing that the heart is what connects us, and yeah, with the energy of the heart. What I wanted to ask is, for people who are just beginning to learn about the power of the heart and how it can bring us into that state of wholeness, but they're still living, as we all are, in a world where there's a lot of disconnection and a lot of troubles, a lot of them against us and all the rest. How would you say that we can begin to find this connection, and how can we, on a practical level, bring that into our lives?
Sure. Well, one very simple way with a lot of support for those who really, really want to feel this is the 6-month course in heartfulness, um, which is 1 weekend a month online for 6 months
Heart of Living Yoga.
through the Heart of Living Yoga Foundation, which is an international charity. All the proceeds go to support projects in Sri Lanka and Brazil and India and the UK with underprivileged children and their families. It's interconnected circles of coherence. And for those who don't want to do the course, or it's not the right time, there are lots of resources on the Heart of Living Yoga website and YouTube channel. There's loads of videos, meditations, and there are other beautiful paths that are offering similar. I've never found anything as deep or as rich as this, which is why I point to it. And I'm not someone who is easily trusting, I guess. And so I do keep peeking. Is it how is it over there? How and and so far I haven't seen anything that's more revolutionary and more transformative than this. And really the key of it seems to be the radical self-care, the really deeply nourishing ourselves. So if we, there's a translation of the Yoga Sutras we use in the course by Nischala Joy Devi. And in it, she talks about the physical heart and how the physical heart always pumps the freshest oxygen-rich blood to itself first, before sending blood out to all the rest of the organs. So we can do the same. We can take time each day, each morning, each evening, throughout the day, to connect with our hearts, to allow ourselves to soften, to relax, to be here, to open to this. And we can remember through the day, if we want to live in a society of equals, really, then we logically have to treat ourselves as equals, not putting ourselves above anyone else and not putting ourselves below anyone else. Yeah. And if we want then to see those around us thriving and happy and well, then we can help them by helping ourselves to be thriving and happy and well. Not putting on that we should be, oh yes, but being real and being kind to ourselves. And we can remember that, or be able to see maybe that society, that ecosystems are not made up of individuals, they're made up of connections. They're made up of relationships. And our relationship with ourselves is part of our relationship with everyone and everything else. How I'm relating to you right now is affected by how I relate to myself, and how you are relating to me relates to how you relate to yourself. Yeah. So we can know that we can improve every single one of our relationships by improving our relationship with ourselves. Yeah. How amazingly efficient is that?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to love ourselves first. And that is so beautiful and so true, but it's not always easy. So for someone who's maybe had a challenging upbringing, like you've talked about yourself, how do we learn to love ourselves, to really deeply love ourselves?
Yeah. Well, there's a nice little yoga pose we can do where we bring our arms out wide and then cross them in front of us and then carry on around. And we can,
That's
and you
a
know
good
the hug, you know, real hugs, when you hug someone, you're like, oh,
one.
yes, I do
Tight.
love them and they do love me.
Mm,
And you can feel it. Well,
mm,
we can open to hugging ourselves that way. And then, this is good, we can notice which arm's on top, and we can bring our arms wide open again, as if we could embrace the whole world. And then we can come across with the other arm on top and have another big hug. Oh, and we can smile to ourselves. It's you. Beautiful, beautiful you. Oh, beautiful you.
That's powerful, isn't it?
It is powerful. It
Yeah.
is powerful. And
It might not look like it if you're just observing, but it is.
it is.
It really is. And I guess it's little things that we can do for ourselves every day to just know that we are our number one champion, carer, advocate. Yeah.
Now, how much of our social, psychological, ecological problems come uh, from people looking for someone else to take care of them?
Mm,
Yeah. And this might seem a bit extreme in a way, but where does slavery come from? Some
mm,
people thinking that others have to take care of them. Uh, so many of our bonkers systems
mm,
based in that, or in patriarchy, and like women are expected to care for men, men are expected to not be able to care for themselves.
mm,
And then women end up, to generalize, often caring for everybody else and forgetting about themselves. Um, so we can reverse that pattern of erosion, that cycle of erosion, and create a cycle of abundance by nourishing ourselves, by caring for ourselves, by
mm,
noticing, what does my body need to be well? How can I make friends with my mind? How can I help my mind focus on the beauty of life, on positivity? How can I make time for what really lights me up?
mm,
Um, and and how can we, allow ourselves to even notice that? So what capitalism um, kind of encourages us to stay busy all the time and
mhm,
be really tired, and to then be desperate for convenience food and easy entertainment, and we become dull.
mm,
Huh? And we're not here to be dull. We're here to shine. Yeah.
mm,
Do you know labor did a study, apparently, I'm told, into the 4-day work week, and the study found that people become much more efficient. Everything worked fine. It was really great.
mm,
And they commissioned that study because they wanted to find out. And then they haven't done it. They're not going to do it.
mm,
And I suspect has been pressure pointing out, gosh, if people had a 3-day weekend, they would have more energy for questioning things, for organizing, for realizing that we don't need these systems that we're told we depend on. So anything that helps us become more empowered to make space for us as much as we can in our lives for what really matters, the more we help to shift the culture towards that vision that we know works better, so much better.
Yeah, so many of us feel guilty as well, though, don't we? Guilty
Or
about looking after ourselves, putting ourselves first, taking time out to just rest or pamper ourselves. There's a lot of guilt.
yeah, yeah. So that's the logic of separation. So there's a daily affirmation came to Padma many years ago, and she wrote it down, and she said she cried as she wrote it because it was so beautiful. And the opening lines are, I am here to love myself. I am here to reestablish a relationship of gentleness and kindness with myself. As I do this for myself, I do this for all others. We forget that we are part of the ecology of life. We are part of the system. Anywhere that love and care goes into the system helps the whole system, yeah, including ourselves just as much. Yeah. And when we're not nurturing ourselves and we're trying to care for others, it could be that what we're doing isn't care and isn't love. It could be that we're trying to control others to get our needs met because we haven't admitted that our needs need to be met. Uh, and so when we can be attentive to our needs and meet them ourselves, including being able to ask for help when we need it. So this isn't the self-sufficient individualism of, of that. It's a loving individuality. And if there is guilt, then we might take time to offer compassion to that. We might want to pour compassion on that lovely, innocent part of ourselves that's saying, yeah, but this is nice, but I should be more. Just hold it and love it and give it compassion. Give it more hugs. Say, thank you, darling. Thank you. Thank you for, trying to help. Thank you. It's okay to have a rest now. You too can have a rest. Or whatever way works for you. You can experiment and explore and try things. We can talk to our own minds. They love it. They, they love time for a chat. Yeah. But if we just leave it up to its own devices, it drives us nuts, right?
Yeah. I wondered if you could just repeat Padma's mantra, because that is moving and it's so profound. If you could just say that again for us.
Sure. So these are the opening lines of the daily affirmation, which is a bit longer. But the opening lines are, I am here to love myself. I am here to re-establish a relationship of gentleness and kindness with myself. As I do this for myself, I do this for all others. All others. All.
Thank you. And if we could all Just do a little bit more of that. What a change we could make.
What a change we are making every time we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's already happening.
Yes, it is. Yes, it really is. You see it, I see it. There's a lot of hope for sure.
Yeah.
So you are a wonderful writer. We've touched on that. And you run writing courses
I do.
as well for those that are interested in sort of, again, deepening connection to heart and being able to write from that deeper place, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Part of how oppression functions is by taking away our voices
Mm.
and reducing our creativity, our imagination. We should be sensible, realistic. According to whose idea of reality, I ask? Huh? And so anything that we can do to nurture our imagination, develop our creativity, strengthen our capacity to express ourselves, and to listen to others is profoundly helpful, uh,
Mm.
individually, socially, at every level. It helps. Um, and we all seem to leave these groups just shining every
Mm.
time. We're just all kind of luminous with what's come through when we open our hearts uh, to the gifts that are waiting to be given. And when we share them with each other, we all feel it.
Mm.
So yeah, so there's two weekly online writing circles. Um, One on a Tuesday from 7:30 to 9, and one uh, that's just moved to a Wednesday, kind of after school time, 4 to 5, because I've got a new job working at a school. Yeah. So
Again, I'll put links to all of that.
okay,
I'm
great.
I'm imagining you're not um, in favor then of people more and more using AI to write their whatever.
Well,
How
I
do you
mean,
feel that's going to impact creativity and
I'm a big fan of natural wisdom,
mm,
and when we open our hearts to receive, um, that's more than any computer can do.
mm,
And there's a there's a way in which our capacities diminish when we allow something else to do everything for us.
mm,
So that doesn't mean we shouldn't use tools,
mhm,
but we can notice, are we using the tool in a way that's empowering, that's supporting ourselves and others, or are we kind of becoming what they call tamasic in yoga, a bit lazy? Oh, I'll just let that do it for me.
mm,
And then, um, yeah, what are we learning
mm,
from that? Um,
mm,
so I hope um, that when people are using AI, it's for a really good, helpful reason,
mm.
and yeah, and not the other stuff that's just a distraction.
We need to keep our creativity alive, don't we? It is so important.
It is, it is. It's divine
Mm,
creation. When they
yeah.
say creation isn't a past tense, it's
Mm,
it's an ongoing process,
yeah.
and we create the world together, and we could create it differently.
Mm,
Yeah. Um, and probably we kind of it might be wise to do so as we see the direction that dominant culture is headed.
yeah.
Uh, and then we see all the other possibilities uh, on the edges, the margins of society that have
Mm,
been filtering into the rest for a long time and are continuing to filter. So those of us who might seem on the edge a bit in a way, we can know ecosystems, it's the edges that are the most vibrant, um, the
mm,
places where different systems meet. It's
mm.
those growing edges that are so powerful. Um, So for those of us who do want to still take time to develop our, our gifts, our craft, um, we're helping everyone.
Mm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So you're going to share some of your writing for
I
us
am.
now.
Yeah. Let me get my screen here. There's a little poem um, that kind of came the other day at a heart meditation and writing circle uh, led by another heart teacher at a heart celebration day in Fife.
Mm.
That was really, really beautiful. And yeah, and I'll tell you, sometimes these things come through, and I didn't quite trust whether it would be good enough to share. And I shared it with you, and I shared it with a couple other poet friends, and everyone said, share that. So yes, so I'm learning to be brave along with everyone
Mhm.
else. We're all here encouraging each other and supporting each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this one is called Held. Hmm. Some say the earth is flat, while others see a little blue marble floating in space. I wonder if perhaps she is a vast living bowl that holds us all equally, contained and free. Like a pond holds water where lilies bloom, and the nest holds hatchlings till they fly, the earth holds the roots of mountains and trees, of you and me. We might learn from our Mother Earth not only the joy of being held, but that the heart too is a vast bowl, holding all that is precious, all that needs tenderness, all that is.
Really lovely. Thank you. Oh, Vishwam, it's been a joy to speak to you. I knew it would be. And it is your words. But as I said right at the beginning, it's also your energy. And I thank you for sharing that with us. I will put all the links to yours and the Heart of Living Yoga's organization. Is there anything before we close that you wanted to share? Is there something we haven't touched on you wanted to talk about, or anything else you want to leave people with today?
Well, it's nice to hear about the heart as a container,
Mm.
and it's another thing to experience it. So maybe we could close with a little heart meditation if that
Mm.
feels like it might be helpful.
Perfect. Yeah,
Right.
let's do that.
So you might like to remove your glasses. Some of us find that helpful. Um, it's that lovely relaxing feeling at the end of the day, isn't it, when you take them off at night and your whole face just kind of softens a bit. So
Mm.
we can have that feeling anytime. Well, not while
Mhm.
we're driving, but and most, and we can just let the eyes close and take a moment to feel the feet on the floor, the sit bones on the chair. Feel the earth holding you, and allow yourself to be held. Allow the weight of the body to drop down, perhaps enjoying an easy breath into the belly, puffing up like a big balloon. And with a sweet sigh out, letting go. And again, if that feels nice, a deep breath in, puffing the belly right up. And sighing away, letting go. And as the weight continues to drop down, you might notice the spine starts to feel a little lighter. The body might almost feel like it's floating, rooted in the earth, and yet the spine is floating up one vertebra at a time, open and spacious and free, all the way up through the neck, and allowing the head to find its balance, lightly on top of the neck. And just taking a moment to notice if there's any tension still held anywhere in the body. Maybe it was hiding a little bit. Just noticing within your own body. And anything you find, you can say to it, oh, thank you for trying to help. Thank you. You're free to go now. I let you go. And enjoying a nice deep breath into the belly, puffing up like a big balloon. And sighing away, letting go. Letting one hand come to rest on the heart, right in the center of the chest, in line with the armpits. And as you focus in the heart, you might feel something within. Not the physical heart, the spiritual heart center. You might feel a kind of lightness, as if the heart itself were smiling. And you can drop the chin just a little bit and lift the corners of the mouth just a little bit, as if smiling to your own heart. And you might feel it smiling back to you. Just for the sake of science, let's try looking quite serious, a bit stern. And notice what happens. And now watch closely as the smile comes back. Notice the change of heart. Allowing the head to float up once again when you're ready. And keeping the focus in the heart center. The smiling heart. And you might feel a subtle movement, like a flow, like a river of love, a river of pure love, flowing through the heart. Let your whole being be carried in this river, carried in the river of love that flows through the heart. This river that's flowing into the ocean, into the ocean of love. At the heart of all. Feeling this love all around and within, everywhere. Everywhere. Allowing ourselves this time to rest, to be held in this ocean of love. you wish. You can ask the heart. You can ask the heart to draw you fully into itself. You can ask this ocean of love to embrace you completely. All separation melting away. In this ocean of love that you are. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace. May peace embrace us all.
Thank you, Vishwam. I don't want to say much after that. I don't want to break the spell. That was incredible.
It's the opposite of a spell. Thank you, Shanta Liz. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
We started this discussion about the ocean and we've ended it with the ocean. I'm so glad you found your ocean and you're sharing that ocean of love with others. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Vishwam. We'll see you again soon, I hope. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this chat and I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Bye for now.